Hey guys, what's going on? I just wanted to catch up with you here a little bit and share some insight and some thoughts that I'd had here recently with you. As I think back over the last 6 months and specifically to my former employer, who I kind of ended my relationship with them on a really sour note. I kind of think back as to what went wrong there. I was used to be really highly respected, very well thought of there, and then something changed amongst some of my coworkers and some of the people that I trusted and believed in and thought at one point I was friends with. And the only thing that I can come up with is jealousy. Um, I consider myself to be very good at my job, but I've also worked very hard at being very good at my job, and I've worked very hard at becoming successful in my job. And if I had to say that I had an ego about anything, it would be about my work. I take a lot of pride in my work, and I take a lot of pride in what I've accomplished in my career in the last 12 years. And I think what happened with my former employer was there were people who just were never going to rise above their own mediocrity that became jealous of what I was able to accomplish and what I was able to do. And this really got me thinking a lot about jealousy, and it makes me think back to a time, another time in my life where I let jealousy and other people's jealousy negatively affect me. um, as some of you may know, and most of you probably don't know, back in the mid 90s, probably about 95, 96, I was a pro wrestler for a very short period of time. Me and a very good friend of mine, we'll just call him Fast Eddie, we found a guy who was running a school in Fort Pierce, Florida. He also coincidentally was a promoter and promoted, booked shows all over Florida and in some cases out of the state of Florida. So, long story short, we did some training, we started working shows, and he and I had a really good gimmick going. He was Fast Eddie, the pizza delivery guy, and I was, his manager Guido. And a lot of people look at managers and say, well, they're not real wrestlers, but the managers have to be trained as well, because you never know when you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're in the ring with someone who is a real wrestler, and you damn well better know what you're doing or you're going to get your ass handed to you. So, you did have to train, you did have to, and I did have to learn everything that everybody else learned. So anyway, we're doing the gimmick, and we're slowly doing our thing, and we're slowly building up, and slowly but surely we're in the business what we call getting over, or becoming more either popular as good guys or hated as bad guys. And in this particular instance, we were the bad guys. Came down to a point where, and I don't think I've ever told Fast Eddie this story, so he'll probably hear it and see it now for the first time with the rest of you. We did a show one night where the Guido Fast Eddie thing had kind of run its course, and we were looking for something fresh, and we also needed to fill in a slot on the card because a guy was supposed to come in and wrestle Fast Eddie. He no-showed, so we needed to make some quick changes. So the promoter came up to us and said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a thing where Fast Eddie gets mad at Guido and blames him for a string of losses, and he's going to turn on Guido and he's going to challenge him to a match. So we had very little to go on because we had very little time, and Eddie sold it brilliantly in the ring. I mean, he got in there. We had no story time. There was no TV. This was a very small promotion in Florida. I was never well known. I did meet a few, kind of influential people in the business, and a couple people that went on to become, pretty big names. But I myself never really got out of Florida, which is okay. But like I said, Eddie sold it brilliantly, having very little to go on. He got in the ring. He told a good story as to why he was mad at me, and and then he called me out. And we came in, and I accepted the challenge, and we did the match. And for 8 minutes, we gave the St. Lucie Center crowd exactly what they wanted. It wasn't technically the best match on the card, but it really was, for my money, the best story on the card. And at the end of the day, that's what pro wrestling's all about. Not only a good match, but a good story, because that's what people pay to see. They want to see good guy versus bad guy and an outcome. And we gave them that. And like I said, for 8 minutes it was good. And for 8 minutes we blew the roof off that place. So the match ended. I went to the back, and as I was walking to the back, there must have been, like I said, St. Lucie Center's not that big. There must have been 500-600 people, speaking modestly, probably about 500-600 people there, which, by a lot of standards isn't a big crowd. But for me personally, that was the largest crowd I had ever performed in front of under any venue. And so as I'm going to the back, like I said, the crowd's still going bananas. They're still, blowing the roof off the joint. And I get back to the back where the guys are, and this guy comes running downstairs, and he was a black dude. His name was his gimmick was the Black Nature Boy, and this dude had it all, man. He was good looking in the face, real good physique, fantastic performer in the ring. And at the time I thought he was generally a pretty nice guy backstage. So he comes running, hauling ass down the stairs, and he's like, "Damn, I came down here to find out what they were popping about." And he looks and he stops as he hits the foot of the stairs, and he looks and he goes, "Oh, it was you." And he looks at me and he says, "Oh, it was you." And he kind of stared at me, and I stared at him for a minute, and then it dawned on me, like, his match didn't get as big a pop as ours was. And this guy, by my standards, having only been doing this for, conservatively speaking, 6-8 months, my match was resonated louder with the audience than his did. And that kind of really just struck me as, wow, he's jealous of what we were able to accomplish, and he couldn't, given the fact that he's been doing this for years longer than I am. And like I said, I've never said this to Fast Eddie, and this is the first time I've really kind of admitted this kind of publicly. That really killed it here for me with pro wrestling as a competitor. I'll always enjoy it as a fan. I always appreciate it as a former performer and as a fan. But that night, that comment, that realization that people are just jealous when you're able to accomplish something they're not able to accomplish. And on this particular night, that guy's feelings about me and what I was able to do killed it for me. It really did. It killed it right here in the heart. And I continued to do it for a while later. I put 3 or 4 more shows behind me before I finally just wrapped it up and said, I can't do this anymore. This isn't for me. It's just not what I thought it was. So, and like I said, it really kind of gets me to thinking about jealousy in general. And the only thing I have to say about jealousy is this: jealousy is a tumor that turns into cancer that destroys people from the inside out. And if you're somebody who's jealous of someone else, the only thing you're doing is holding yourself back from reaching your own potential. And if you allow other people's jealousy to dictate what you do and where you go in life, again, you're only holding yourself back. I'm TattsDeej. Those are my words of wisdom, and I'm out.